So, Stu, let's play a little inflation game.
Yay, all right.
The inflation game. Let's see if the number is higher or lower. And can you guess the inflation number without going over or under?
So I have to guess it exactly as the game?
Well, I tried to make it a little harder. All right. All items, 12 months, so year to year. All items are up how much?
Well, I've been looking closely at the government reporting, so I'll say 0.1%.
0.1.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. 5.4.
Wow.
Now, what's the Fed target? Two and a, I think they may have raised it to 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2.5. That's their job. Okay, that's what they were built for. To make sure that we can get inflation under control so we don't have banking collapses, which don't think too hard or remember anything that's happened in your lifetime. It's going to stop all banking collapses, and we're going to keep inflation under control. Mm-hmm. And yes, we're printing more money than God has even the ability to count, but it's transitory inflation.
Transitory.
5.4. Now, how much has food gone up? Now, overall food gone up 3.4. Food at home. How much more are your groceries costing you this year?
I have no idea, Glenn.
All right. Ooh, sorry.
All I know is stuff keeps showing up on the front porch every single day in giant piles, and all of our money's gone. That's all I know.
And Jeff Bezos just was shot into space. 2.6. It's gone up. Food outside the home gone up 4.6. Now I'm going to give you a couple. I'm going to skip one sector here, and let's go to commodities, less food and energy. So these are all other commodities, except for food and transportation, or energy. Sorry, food and transportation. Gone up 8.5%.
Wow.
New vehicles gone up 6.4%. Used cars and trucks, and I would love someone to explain this to me. Used cars and trucks up 41.7%.
Now, the only thing that I have heard as an explanation, and we've talked about this a little bit, is the shortage of these components for new cars so that people can't get the new cars.
That does not sound like an American philosophy. That does not sound like the average person out there going, you know what? I hear these chips, and so what I'm going to do is buy. That does not
I mean, like,
sound...
so the new cars aren't as available, so people are having to go to the used car market more often, is what I mean.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. 41.7.
That's incredible, though.
I sold my truck. I had to get a dually because I got a trailer on it. I got to haul stuff around. So I got a dually. I sold my truck that was, 3 years old for the price I paid for it. I've never done that in my life.
That's never occurred.
That's never occurred.
Occurred in human history.
Craig, he just sold his truck, a few months ago, he actually got more than what he paid for it.
Yeah, you don't normally profit on used car sales.
Used car sales.
No.
Clothing and apparel has gone up 4.2. Medical care down 2.1. Oh, that's great. Shelter up 2.8. Depends on where you are. If you're living in Texas right now, oh my gosh, as long as you don't want to live in Texas, you could rake in the money on selling your home right now.
Yeah, the housing market's been going crazy. When they say shelter, that I would assume also includes rent built in there.
But rent is way up. I know somebody who has been trying to buy a house. The banks are requiring 50% down now. 50%.
I was looking at some data from New York City because obviously it's been a big topic because of COVID. Yeah. And their purchase real estate hasn't really seen, maybe at the very high end kind of came down a little bit, but generally speaking, even through COVID, the purchase real estate wasn't all that affected. What was really affected were rents. So people could say, for that 18 square foot apartment you were renting for $9,000 a month, you could get that for like $7,000. Now it's starting to race back up again, but there was a period there, particularly in New York and maybe hard-hit cities around the country. But as far as the country goes overall, rents have been holding up pretty well.
Yeah, rents here in Texas are through the roof. Trying to rent someplace is crazy. Well, I mean, Sarah, you probably, you're still living in the hotel, aren't you? Yeah.
Sarah has permanently moved into a hotel. Yeah. She's now decided she's just a hotel girl. She's going to live the hotel life.
Are they working on your house yet? Because mine's going to be done in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I just
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
That's
it's going to be done. Yesterday, I just posted this video on my Instagram. I was going to bed last night, and I walk into my bedroom, which has my parts of my living room, family room, a little bit of my office,
sure,
and it's all in my master bedroom. And so I took a Instagram video of it, and that's when I discovered, because they told me it would be it's going to be 2 weeks. 2 weeks, you're all done.
Couple weeks. Mm-hmm.
Couple weeks, it's all going to be done. And so I was just kind of scanning the room until I got right next to my nightstand where the faceplate for the dishwasher was living. And I'm like, I think it's going to be longer than 2 weeks. I just think it's going to be a little longer than 2 weeks, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, so shelter is up 2.8. Transportation services are up 6.4. Now, let me get to this one. Okay, because they were blaming this all on COVID. Mm-hmm. That's all COVID. It's all COVID. COVID. That's why it's going to be transitory. Yeah. No, it's not all COVID, because where are we really getting hit? Listen to these numbers. Energy overall is up 23%. So you're paying 23% more for the energy sector.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, Glenn, all the spending obviously is a huge part of this too. We spent $5 trillion on COVID, have another $5 trillion around the corner on infrastructure and basically Green New Deal with a different name. But the Green New Deal part of this multiple trillions of dollars that are around the corner is going to make that number much, much worse, not just because of the spending, but because what we're going to do is take away cheap energy and implement expensive energy.
No.
So number is going to get much worse.
No, we're relying on OPEC now. Because
our solar panels, we're relying on OPEC?
Yeah, oh, sure. Okay. Our gasoline is up 41%. Year over year, 41%. Hang on just a second. I can hear the cries for Trump. Shh, listen. Up 41%. Fuel oil in the summer. Fuel oil is up 39%. Electricity is up 4%. Now, as Stu said, this is before the other $5 trillion of spending is flooded into the market. And if you want to buy a house, well, good luck getting cement for the foundation, because the government is going to be using all this money to buy cement. They are competing with you, and they've got $5 trillion. Who do you think is going to get it? And then when they start to mandate things, which they are, what do you think that's going to do? To drive up prices, or do you think it'll make it cheaper? Let me give you this. I was telling you last hour, the car companies are now saying 2030 is about the last combustion engine. Okay, 2030. For some companies, most companies are right around there. Well, I mean, I'm hoping some magic happens, in the next 8 years. Because what that'll mean is we all have to get electricity for our cars, because you won't have a gasoline engine. If you're going to buy a new car, you'll have to have electricity. Let me ask you, California, when it gets hot there, why do you have rolling blackouts or brownouts? What do they tell you to do? Turn down the air conditioning, because everybody using air conditioning, it's too much of a load on the power grid. What happens when we all plug cars into the power grid and are sucking juice in a cold or hot time? What happens when we live in San Diego? Let's say it's perfect weather all the time. Where do we get all that extra juice to plug our cars in?
Well, you're leaving out the fact that this is why environmentalists are so passionate about nuclear energy. They're constantly promoting it, trying to jam it down our throats as this unending amount of clean energy that we already have a good handle on scientifically.
Yeah, we do. They're not for it.
No, they're not.
Yeah. Solar panels, you know who is a gift? This is a gift to? China. China has all of the rare earth minerals. They have everything to make solar panels. They have everything to make batteries. We don't. We won't explore. We won't exploit. We won't dig. We won't look. We won't use. So we're giving this giant gift to China. We'll be reliant on China for all of these things. Oh, and by the way, solar panels, as someone who has a 100% off the grid, 100% green energy home, it sucks beyond belief, and it's wildly expensive. So, I mean, if you're Nancy Pelosi and you have refrigerators and freezers, Sub-Zeros full of exotic ice creams, that you have
Jenny's Splendid?
Yeah, Jenny's Splendid, and Rosarita comes and she puts it in there. I don't even know how it appears there in my freezer. You can afford it, but the average person is not going to be able to afford these things. But the government will subsidize.
And again, it's got nothing to do with whether it works right now.
Nope.
The point is to lock us into an infrastructure that needs to be continually supported.
I want you to explain that here in a second, because it goes right into the Great Reset. Just say that again, and then I can take a minute break, and then you explain it.
The point is not whether it's a good idea right now. The point is to lock us into an infrastructure.
Ponder that for a second, and we'll come back and explain. You said a minute ago that it's not about whether or not this is better or more effective or cheaper. It's about locking us into what?
An infrastructure. It's about...
Like the package.
Mm-hmm.
Like an infrastructure package.
Kind of, yeah.
I wonder if those two are related at all.
It's weird, no, because as conservatives, we're supposed to say, this is an infrastructure? What are you talking about? They're trying to say that this stuff is infrastructure. Ha, 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 ha. It is infrastructure, as you pointed out.
They're building something.
Yeah.
And you're not going to like what they're building. Bring out the monster. It's coming.
It's true. It's not roads and bridges, but it's other things. So if you think about the way this stuff works, it's about locking you in infrastructure. There are countries that use coal to oil technology, right? That they had to develop an industry around this at the time, and they continue to use it because it's already built. France, woke France that's on the page with every environmentalist in the world, for some reason has 70% of its electricity generated by nuclear power.
No, that's not true. Don't tell me that.
Now,
France.
This has resulted in them having the lowest energy prices in Europe, basically. But that's
weird.
Now bad. So they're on the path to reverse this process.
And they are building giant windmills that don't provide energy.
Right. Now, they want to reduce this to 50% over the next, decade or two.
Why?
But look at how difficult this is. For a country that doesn't want nuclear energy, they're locked into it because at the time they correctly selected nuclear, but now it's become unfashionable. The same thing has happened in Germany. Germany, when it was fashionable...
Hang on just a second. I would just like to point out, energy shouldn't be dictated by fashion.
Thank you.
Okay? It's not like a pair of bell-bottom jeans. Right. You can just go, I never wore those things. This works.
Yeah.
You shouldn't care about fashion.
Germany was proposed with a big issue of building tons and tons and tons of solar panels, converting lots of their energy to solar energy. And you think Germany, you think beautiful sunshine.
Oh, I do.
So there was a fight about this at the time. And the fight was, these aren't efficient enough. They don't work. It's going to cost us a fortune, blah, 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 blah. All the arguments that are correct that we would bring up. But the point of this was not that these panels worked well. They were crappy early technology, and they don't work nearly as well as the stuff that's out there today.
As I know, because I just had to replace my panels and the batteries and everything else in my solar panels, which cost me a fortune because they're not as efficient, and we can actually provide power for your house now.
Right. The environmentalist, the brilliance of the environmentalist plan here was not to get reliable, cheap energy to people in Germany. It was to change their system to be a much more solar-intensive system. So then, when the crappy panels ran out, what are they going to do? They're a solar system. They replace it with new solar panels. They locked it in early when it didn't work. And once you build that infrastructure, no matter what your decision-making is, it's almost impossible to change, which is what this $3.5 trillion that's right around the corner is attempting to do all over our economy. Lock in things that whether they work or not, it doesn't matter. The point is they're there, and they're impossible to reverse like any big government program.
My gosh, you bring all this happy news. Let me tell you what's really going on beyond energy.
I didn't mean that to be happy.
When I tell you what's happening with food, it's going to make our energy problems look like a picnic.